You may recall that the other time when we had to do something concerning the theories of learning, we started with a gem that had to do with what we leave behind is not what is engraved on stone monuments. What we leave behind is what is engraved or chiseled on the minds of pupils, individuals that we teach. And so, just go back to that. Orient yourself that this is the question. What am I leaving behind as a teacher? Do I prepare to go to teach before I go? Or I just go to the class and, oh, these are our children. So you just assume that you can do anything at the spell of the moment. So you go and you don't do anything by preparation. If this is true of you and I, then we have ceased, according to Albert Einstein, we have failed to answer the question why we are here. Because according to him, life is a gift. Somebody gave that gift. The moment we accept this gift we call life, then Albert is saying that we must contribute in return for having accepted that life. And he gives a condition: if we receive. Then he changes the if to when. Anytime we are not making a positive contribution, we have failed to answer the question why we are here on earth, why we are professional teachers. We have failed to answer that question. So ask yourself, what contributions are you making as a professional teacher? And so don't forget, the stones that people have thrown at you for you to have become stressed, use those stones as foundations to build and stand on. This is important because teaching follows some basic principles. And so before I answer the question, should the teacher prepare, let me run through a few things as principles of teaching, so that before you go to the classroom, you will realize that, oh, this is a principle, I stand on it. We don't want to take things for granted, so let me explain to you the word principle. When we say teaching principles, what is a principle? A principle is a universal law. It is a scientific law applicable to any place, any time, place and time, anytime, anywhere. But let us use an example so we can all understand. Yesterday, the president gave a national address, and according to him, God willing, the international airport, Kotoka, is going to be reopened. So let us assume that as a class, in our mental picture, we have gone to the airport. For a long time, there has been a break, so we go to find planes zooming in and flying out. Now, if you look at the tarmac, the runway, an airplane is to fly across the sea. And so wherever you stand, since the sea is at the south, find your north, the cardinal point. Why is it that when the plane that is to take off facing south, it has to go some distance north, turn, and then with a terrific speed facing south, flies? And so we are going to use the principle of aerodynamics. The principle of aerodynamics, because I said it's a scientific law, let us call it the law of aerodynamics. Somebody will tell you that when the plane is from the north now on the tarmac at a terrific speed, it wants to gather momentum. Splendid, that is true. But why the momentum gathering? In our elementary science, we have learned to know, all of you, my class students, all of you have gone through the senior high, you did the core science, integrated science. And we know that air has weight. Now this law is stated, simple terms, any flying object cuts through a volume of air, and air has weight. So as the machine, the plane, at a terrific speed on the tarmac is gathering momentum, it is pushing air. And the law states that any object that cuts through the air, the moment it is able to displace, the moment it displaces the volume of air that is equal to the weight of that moving object, that object must float on the wings of the air. And so you find that when the airplane is coming terrific speed on the tarmac, at a point in time it is lifted up. Yes, it has engines. The engines only help the aeroplane to run at a speed on the tarmac to be able to displace air, a volume of air that is equal to its weight. And because gravity is there, the engines will sustain the aeroplane in the air. Otherwise, the law of gravity will bring it down. This is the law. This is the principle. As teachers, somebody has compared the children that we teach as a seed. And the seed has a germinating principle in it. The one who created purple seed or any type of seed has put in it a germinating principle, that if the appropriate environment is created for that seed, it will germinate. So if the children that we teach are compared to seeds, and the farmer provides moisture, sunshine, water, rain, and that seed will germinate naturally, then when the children that we teach, we provide for them the appropriate environment, the children will learn. So teaching principles. One, the only reason why some children give up schooling is because they became confused. Why? They failed to understand just one word that the teacher said one day. And Hubbard, L.R. Hubbard, let me give his statement on it. He says, the only reason a person gives up a study or becomes confused or unable to learn is because he or she has gone past one word that was not understood. So you think back, the mathematics teachers who taught you, you didn't like mathematics because one day the teacher came and you got so confused about the topic that he taught, and mathematics became so drudgery, a drudgery to you, like taking quinine. So anytime the teacher came to class, you wished he went out and you could do your own thing. So in principle 1 of teaching, teachers must lessen the labor of learning. You see, learning is laborious. You agree with me? English is heavy. And because of its heaviness, because of the heaviness that teachers put on studying or on learning, children become so disappointed and they don't want to go to school. So as teachers, the principle is that if teaching is learning, a laborious activity, then as a teacher we must lessen, Lesson, make it less. lessen the burden of learning. And how do we do this? What does it mean to lessen the labor of learning? One, because learning, I have said already, is laborious. So make it less burdensome. The teacher can do this by doing the following 5 things. The teacher must be clear and explanatory. Be clear, explain. The teacher must review his or her lessons from time to time. If you do this, we are making learning less difficult. The teacher must involve the learners. That's why we have teacher-learner activity. Involve the children. If you do that, you are lessening the labor, the difficulty, the burdensomeness of teaching. The teacher must teach within the cognitive perspective of the learner. We are taking this from Piaget, don't let us forget. And the teacher must be more practical in his or her approach to teaching. Be more practical. If it needs jumping, jump. If it needs using demonstration where you need to do 1 or 2 things. I saw a teacher who is on the PE football field and wearing the attire that he has used to go to teach. How can you demonstrate anything in that attire? So, the teacher must be explanatory. The teacher should constantly aim at simplicity and effectiveness. So the teacher must teach largely by illustration so that every explanation is made clear. When children or students understand a concept, learning is easy and so becomes your teaching. Review lessons from time to time. Whoever completes university today fails to read tomorrow because an illiterate. Let me go again. Whoever completes university today fails to read tomorrow becomes an illiterate the day after. You understand that one? You have completed your school today, but because you completed, you fail to read again. You become an illiterate the next day. And that is why good teachers, master teachers, are continuous learners. So we take time to ourselves and we add knowledge to what we know already. By this, we encourage our learners to rehearse what we have given them. Ego involvement or ego. You involve students in lively discussions, allow them to share their views, allow them to ask questions that bother them. Because according to J.S. Farrant, practice makes perfect. According to Farrant, J.S., practice makes perfect. And the teacher, you must question learners about their previous lesson. Question them. Some of us do not know the art of questioning. We don't even know probing questions, how to use probing questions. And when a child or a student gives an answer, we take it for granted that he has made it. But probe to find whether it was a guess. He only guessed and got it right. Put the students into groups and you'll be able to help them learn better. All lessons must be prepared and taught according to the cognitive levels of the child or the children. So, therefore, lessons must be planned so that learners begin to learn from the known to the unknown. They learn from the concrete to the abstract. You give more practical lessons and let students go through the practical way. Because practical lessons stick better in the memory than all the others. And that is Dale E. Because if you draw the pyramid of remembrance by Egadale, you find that when an individual reads according to his empirical studies, when an individual only reads, he is able to retain 10%. When you lecture, the student will remember just 20%. When they see, they remember 30%. But when they see and hear, they remember 50%. But when the teaching is simulated and it is practically based, 70%. And so which one should you go with or go by? Principle 2 is nature. I give you the point of a seed. So let us go and look at farming. You put a seed in the soil. After planting, it sprouts. When it is sprouted, don't we nurture the tender plant? We do. So students learn best from those they love. Nurturing has that principle of love. If you don't love that work of farming, you will not nurture the seedlings, the trendles, until they become mature. You become frustrated. But anybody who loves farming, nurturing, that is not boredom. Not all women are mothers. You watch mothers. Any mother who nurtures a child, you'll find that principle or element of love and care from that lady or woman. So if we love our students, it will not be difficult to open the door of learning to them. So the second principle of teaching is to love the child that we teach. Love the children that we teach. So how do we nurture the child? We provide nourishment, and the child has come to study. So the classroom must be where nourishment, anything that the teacher does, the teacher says, the teacher smiles, anything must be part of the nourishment package for the child. The teacher must spend quality time with the child. Pay attention to the child's stupidity and don't write the child off. Piaget, if he had written off the mistakes, the wrong answers of the children's test, he would not have come out with his theory of cognitive development. So, let us have the sacrificial love for the peoples or the children that we teach, so that we will not neglect them. We will not be permissive. We will not be authoritarian or authoritative. So, teaching them, loving them will combine discipline with love. And love, therefore, becomes a transformational tool. Because when we love back, it melts the cold ice of a people. So, teaching is very important here, because we remember, loving the child has an emotion, he has feelings, he has desires. The child has a will, so he can make decisions. The child has a mind, so the intellect is there, the memory is there, the imagination is there. And so we must help the child like the pastor is taking care of the soul of the individual to help him or her get saved. So we need to do this and follow these principles of teaching. And that is why one man, Carl Rogers, when we talk about teaching, we go to Carl Rogers and borrow from his non-directive teaching model. Love as a principle. In non-directive teaching, according to Carl Rogers, a model of teaching is a plan or a pattern that can be used to design a face-to-face teaching in classroom or tutorial settings to shape instructional material. So a good model will help learning. So what is his non-directive? According to him, there should be a positive human relationship. And here, the teacher must befriend the student. The teacher must be very positive in the context of helping the students grow and development. So, non-directly, because if you and I, as farmers, we provide the appropriate ingredients, the environment for a seed, we will not direct the seed to grow. The growth will come out naturally because there is a germinating principle there. So, positive human relationship, which according to Carl Rogers is love, enables people to grow. So, according to him, instruction must be based on concepts of human relations. Who is your neighbor? Is the child you are teaching your neighbor? Or you are selective in the class? Those who are properly dressed, they are the ones that you will send. Those are the ones that you allow to come near your table as a teacher. So in Carl Rogers' non-directive teaching, the teacher is just a facilitator. Let me repeat. According to Carl Rogers, the teacher is a facilitator who has a personal relationship with his or her students. The teacher is a guide who guides the growth and development. And so he explores new ideas about their lives, their schoolwork, and then the relationships with one another student. So the non-directive model, the teacher is a patient, very, very patient, a patient who is patient. He does not sacrifice the long view by forcing immediate results. And that is why it is said that don't judge tomorrow by what you see. Judge tomorrow by what you plant, what you sow. So as teachers, we are sowing something in the minds of our children, and we can judge their tomorrow by what we are sowing in their minds today. That is a very good principle by Carl Rogers. So we must not forget that human beings have minds, they have souls, they have emotions. So if we are using this principle, then God is with us. There's another young man who, before he became old, came out with the choice theory, and that is another principle. The child's needs is another principle that teachers can use to teach. According to humankind, you and I, and animals, we all need four things. We need survival. We need love and belongingness. We want to be accepted. We want freedom and we want fun. 4. Survival, love and belonging. In other words, we want to be accepted in a group. We want to have freedom and we want fun. So, because of survival, human beings need power. The power to think, the power to create and subdue the environment so we can survive. Humans use some ways to obtain power. These are the caring habits that we have. The bad habits also are there. Some people are supportive, others are criticizing, others are encouraging, others are blaming. So on the positive side, listen to the child, don't complain. Accept the child, don't nag. Trust the child, don't threaten. Respect the child, don't punish. Negotiate with the child, don't bring rewards to control the child. Let me go over again. Instead of criticizing, support. Instead of blaming, encourage. Instead of complaining, listen. Instead of nagging, accept. Instead of threatening, trust. Instead of punishing, respect. Instead of rewarding to control, negotiate the differences that you find in the children. And that is why Albert Comenius is Comenius, brought an analogy that the child is the seed. The curriculum that we have is the soil, and our method of teaching is the nurturing instrument. So let the method of teaching lessen the labor of learning that you have said. For the child is the seed. This method of teaching is a way of teaching all things to all people. And so we choose our method according to Comenius. And if the child is the seed, we look at the child that we should nurture. What are we using to nurture the child? We are using our curriculum, the topics that have been slated down for us to teach. And we select a method because that is what we are going to nurture the child, who is a seed. So, this is how far we can go with some of the principles of teaching. And if these are the principles, and the child sees learning as burdensome, and we are going to lessen the laborious nature of learning by those things that I have said already, then why should the teacher prepare or not prepare? The teacher prepares, preparation. The teacher plans the structure of a lesson. So what is lesson preparation? What is it at all? Lesson preparation is a thoughtful process whereby a teacher tries to find out the following. One, the mental ages of the students he's going to teach. The individual abilities of the children, and then the previous knowledge of the students. Before a teacher prepares, this thoughtful process or processes must be gone through. If the teacher fails, he cannot prepare effectively to go to teach. The teacher must find exactly what the students are going to learn, and that is the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. If you don't find the syllabus in respect of the topics that have been put down for you, you will go to the senior high school or the JSS and disgrace yourself. Like somebody I supervised, and within the first 25 minutes, dried up. You will disgrace yourself. The children are roaming out. They are on the net finding information. Don't go and assume that the children don't know anything. How is this going to be achieved? The final stage of a teacher's preparation before you go to work. One, the teacher finds the teaching syllabus. In Ghana, it is prescribed, it is centralized. So in the school, before you go there, the syllabus or the syllabi, they are there. You go to pick it, and there's the scheme of work, so it is broken into terms. Probably in your school nowadays, you go and then you have it broken already. First term, second term, third term. It is broken for you. So generally, the scheme of work becomes an outline of work for a whole year, which has been broken into terms or semesters. And then you break this in further into weeks or teaching weeks. You do that. This is part of preparation. So why prepare at all? Why? Why is it necessary for the teacher to prepare? The following is important to note. Anyone who has prepared, the interest of that person is ensured. So it ensures interest. Preparation does that. It ensures enthusiasm and the mastery of the subject matter on the part of the teacher. So you find that if you have prepared well, the teacher is eager to present the material. Your enthusiasm is boosted. It ensures an accurate and systematic presentation. Or when the teacher has prepared and you get to sit and you listen and you look at this teacher, you find an accurate and systematic presentation. And you can say the teacher did advanced preparation. It ensures optimum use of instructional time. When the teacher has prepared and has allocated time to introduction, I'm going through 5 steps. Each step is going to take 10 minutes. The teacher teaches according to time, and no resource is wasted. It ensures that students' interest is aroused and sustained. Any teacher who has prepared very well motivates the children at the introductory stage and is able to sustain the children's interest throughout the lesson. It also enhances the teacher's own confidence, dispels any nervousness, and makes the teacher somebody who is on the job. The teacher knows what he or she is doing. Preparation, therefore, is very, very important for the teacher. And for those of you who are in this class, when we talk about planning, find some of your students who are in B.Ed accounting and B.Ed management to help you with the words organizing, planning, and evaluation. It is in their work. And when you are planning, you have in broad outline what you have to do. When you are organizing, what do you do that we call organization? Find them so they will help you too, because it is important that the teacher must prepare. As we prepare, we go through 2 forms of preparation. The mental preparation is very, very important. This implies that the teacher must have read wide and has actually grasped his or her subject matter. That is the mental preparation. Secondly, it demands that the teacher knows how the lesson matter, the subject matter, is going to be presented. In a word, the methods and the strategies that he has chosen. In looking at the basic tools of instructional planning, remember, we look at the following. You look at the goals, the general goals. We are looking at the outcomes. We are looking at our objectives. We are looking at our taxonomies. With what are we going to use to evaluate? We are looking at our lesson and unit planning and how we are going to sequence our materials and presentations. These are the static elements of teaching, don't forget. Looking at the goals, the outcomes, the objectives, the taxonomies, the lesson and unit planning and sequencing, we are saying that these are the static elements of teaching. Because thought and contemplation precede action. Let me say that again. Thought and contemplation precede action. We think about something before we do. Any person who does something before he thinks about that can be referred to as a fool. So thought, what we think about, is that which precedes action. It is when we have done this, after we have done the mental preparation, that the actual activity of writing the lesson plan comes in. So preparation is essential for effective teaching and learning. And so lesson preparation, like I've said, two forms: the mental preparation, because it is on my heart. That's why I'm belaboring myself going over them. The basic tools for instructional planning. You are looking at your goals, I've said again, your outcomes, your objectives, and your taxonomies. The unit planning, the sequencing, and I've said these are the static elements of teaching. And it also demands that the teacher knows how the lesson subject matter is going to be presented, and in a word, methods. The writing of the lesson notes, the lesson plan. The lesson notes for a teacher is the visible guide of the mental preparation. Mentally, we looked at so many things, but now you sit down to write. So what you have written as the lesson plan becomes the visible guide of your mental preparation. And so we have a structure of the lesson. We have the general heading that we know already. If you are teaching, for example, CRS, and you are going to teach prodigal son. The prodigal son is too broad. You have 70 minutes or whatever time that you have. So you break the prodigal son into a subtopic or subtopics. For example, the return of the prodigal son. The attitude of the father of the prodigal son. The father's love. Into brackets, the fatherhood of God. The attitude of the elder brother of the prodigal son. These are subtopics that you can break the bigger topic into. Then you look at other considerations. The class, the topic, the date, the time allotted, the objectives, the introduction, the presentation in steps and procedures, and then the conclusion, which you have said some time ago as the evaluation. These are some of the things that you would do. And because we have talked about lesson plan, I will not take it for granted. I'll give you some things that I will want you to look at, so at your leisure time you can use them and write a lesson plan. Most importantly, the instructional objective, and then the teacher-learner activity column. And the third that goes with is the core point area. So you need to be asking yourself, how much material can I cover in one period before you set out to write the lesson note, especially choosing the topic and the subtopic. How is what is taught in my courses related to the other courses? So you are going to teach the child. Can there be any transfer of learning? Some of you go to teach in the classroom and they forget all that they have learned in educational psychology, because this is on campus, so it has nothing to do with educational psychology. How can you think that way? How can you use curriculum guide? That is what the syllabus that you have gone for. How can you use that? Your textbooks and all the information that you have gotten when you were at college. How can you use that to help your teaching? So how do you plan for survival? Some of you, if it were a private organization, the way that you teach in that private organization, the owner of the school would put you off, because you go and waste children's time. As for it is because it's government. So as for government work, nobody puts it on the shoulder. When you are tired, you shake your shoulder and it is off. It is not like that. Please, if you are a professional teacher and you have a conscience like all of us have conscience, teaching is a moral duty. It's an activity that's why we say it is humane, a moral obligation on every teacher to help the child who has been brought to be taught. So, lesson planning provides the basis for the dynamic, interactive phases of teaching. I repeat, and then we can end somewhere here. Lesson planning provides the basis for the dynamic, interactive phases of teaching. Teaching is dynamic, it is not static. It goes on from one phase to another phase, one step to another step. It is dynamic, but planning, the planning that we do as teachers, they produce that basis for this interaction, this process of teaching, which is not static. It provides the interaction that goes on in the phases of teaching. So far, so good, according to Ibn Battuta, that if we have been able to bring ourselves up and we are saying that we are teachers, before we get into the classroom, we must plan our work. And planning goes through these phases that I have already talked about. So, we thank the Lord that He has taken us through up to this time. At another time, we will look at the goals and the outcomes that underpin the instructions that we go through with our children. Thank you so much.